Good morning. This is the Jewish refrigerator, which is, I guess, sort of the idea, the view. There's a couple obvious differences. I think the religion is the biggest one. We wanted to speak about a couple relevant discussions, a couple issues that come up. God willing, this would go, eventually be doing it live, and you could Twitter in or tweet in or, whatever you want, and bring up content as well. Shut off your phones would be great.
We can talk about Jewish women's leadership. I was also thinking maybe
I should sit on a phone like when they give the kids haircuts, like a phone. Go ahead.
Phone book.
Yeah, phone book.
Those are foreign objects.
I don't even know what those are. Yeah, seriously.
Something that I've seen a lot, and for many years, is like a desire to portray a certain image of oneself to the outside world versus what's really going on the inside. And then there's also this like new emerging, I don't know how new, but an emerging like with certain people, like they want to make themselves vulnerable for a purpose.
Right.
So
that's a great thing.
For a purpose.
I love that.
Okay.
I love that. And if vulnerability is if it's vulnerability for a purpose, if that is itself actually being vulnerable or just being manipulative, which I employ a lot. Full disclosure.
Wait, did you just disclose that you're...
I'm very manipulative.
Manipulative.
Yeah. Strategic. I don't think it's a problem.
You're being vulnerable as a strategy.
I think vulnerability is one of the greatest strategies.
Okay.
I think that vulnerability is the greatest strategy because it enables you to engender the trust of people that you're trying to work with or get something from. And as a strategy, I mean, there's nothing better than that.
And yet, on the flip side, you've got all these people who are trying to portray a perfect image of what's going on in their lives.
I think the perfect image went out in the 80s. I think it really went out in the 80s and the 90s.
Really? On Facebook, you don't see perfect images all the time? Here's me smiling with on a hike with my kids.
I think what's interesting is in the commercial Facebook world, they've gone much more, and that's the whole concept of live, is going to a more organic, personal, vulnerable side. I think perhaps in terms of what we share on Facebook could be still that perfect thing. It's interesting. Maybe the point is different, though. I think maybe the point of sharing on Facebook is you want people to see things that you enjoy, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in terms of marketing on Facebook and Facebook marketing, you're trying to actually get them to take action. And I think that's the biggest... that's the biggest difference. I mean, when I'm sharing pictures of my children, for example, or when I'm sharing a Devar Torah, I don't really want a person to take action. There's no action for you to take,
right.
But if I would go, for example, I'm having a class tonight. I guess now I have to put it up today. I'm having a class tonight, and next Monday night at Dr. Yeshua at 8:00 on uncovering your genuine spirituality and how it has to do with Hanukkah. Plug. Writing a book also.
2-part series this Monday night, next Monday night at Adat Yeshua. Thank you, Partners in Torah.
That's right. When I'm doing that, and there's an actual call to action, so that I would, that would be possibly a different way of marketing than just me showing pictures of my kids.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
It does. So, but I still think that there's like a motivation for people to show a perfect life on Facebook and Instagram and all these kind of social platforms.
I think it's going out. I think it's going out, and people are going to have to learn how to be. The awkward thing is I don't think people know how to be genuine anymore, and I think people have to relearn how to be genuine because I think that, there's this line between. So, how do you say it? I think that first of all, even in real life, so to speak, people have a hard time being genuine. I think the media has made it a lot more difficult because there's always that problem of oversharing. Meaning, like, if I just meet a person, I'm not going to overshare.
Right.
Otherwise, it's like super awkward.
Right.
You're like, oh my God, why is this person talking about this kind of stuff? On Facebook, it's like you're friends with Facebook, and how other people perceive you in the Facebook world, depending on when they became friends with you, could be you're way oversharing in that regard. So we always kind of have to be careful and present, I guess, a certain image we want.
Yeah.
You don't see me posting pictures of me like running after my kids, screaming when they're not getting their pajamas on or whatever it might be. But I think that as we move towards a more, I don't know how you say, like a more organic, vulnerable world, or world that appreciates vulnerability,
and just also on also the privacy just seems far less valued than it was 25 years ago.
I don't know what's. Yeah, I mean, what is private now?
No one seems to care about privacy laws.
I don't think so. And I think it's a weird thing a little bit because when you have your children and you have your, family, you don't But I mean, I don't know. I guess we have to see what it's like for an entire generation growing up where their entire childhood has been completely documented,
Right.
And what that looks like. And I don't know. Could be it's
Probably
not.
very self-absorbed. No.
Could be. I mean, my kids are all about making YouTubes and having a YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't.
And what about the Jewish part of this? What do you think Jewish thought is on sharing with the world things that would have been private had we not had like internet and social media?
It's a great question. What do you think?
I think there's an idea of modesty, and I don't mean the kind where you have to dress like from here to your feet. I think more in terms of just behavior, and we have to be cognizant of that. But I also think there's so much room to share authenticity for the benefit of being connected to one another, for the benefit of even showing that heroes are not perfect or role models are not perfect, things like that. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think that there's a great book which I saw now on two or three different bookshelves and have swiped off of one of them of Brene Brown and the idea of daring greatly and her whole idea of how to be vulnerable and how that's how that's the a line or a definition of bravery as opposed to the opposite of bravery. Being afraid you can't do it is no longer brave because you're not going to do it. And I'm a big victim of that. Like, there's a lot of stuff I would love to do, and I get very angry when I see other people doing it, and I'm not doing it. But I think that the world that we live in today, from a Jewish perspective, I think we have this tremendous dichotomy. And again, this is something that I don't want to ever crusade because I think that it's very vulnerable and it's a big problem, and I don't think anyone's going to talk about it, so I guess we'll talk about it. But I think the Jewish world is suffering from, just like I kind of said that it was so like in the 80s to present this perfect life. I think that there is a problem of trying to present perfect people in the Jewish world, and certainly in more religious groups, having problems are a lot of times swept under the rug because A, we don't want the outside getting involved, and B, I think in a more profound sense, we don't want to admit that we have these kind of issues, and I think that's an issue.
And maybe because, let me just, if you don't mind going deeper even, maybe it's because we don't want to make anyone think that it's poorly reflecting on the values that we represent. In other words, don't judge Jews for the Judaism kind of thing.
Yes, I hope it's that. But I also think that, for me, for example, it bothers, I think, and also it's kind of like a skewed demographic. One of the things when you're learning Gemara, you see the rabbis are really dealing with real things. They really kind of get it. They're dealing with like crazy situations. You're like, oh my God, that actually happens and people know about it. And, now we've kind of come to I think that if you would bring up this kind of stuff nowadays, people are like, what? That doesn't happen. We don't do that. And so I'm just for me, for example, I'm very private about the fact that, this just goes to kind of the heart of the issue. I'm very private about the fact that I work out as much as I do. I'm not if I'm in a more religious environment, which in San Diego we don't have as much, but if I'm in LA or if I'm in New York or if I'm in Eretz Yisrael or I'm talking to my rabbis, I'm really downplaying exercise and how much I exercise and just the whole thing. That's a big part of my life, and I feel like I walk out of that, and a lot of times people don't really get me.
Would it be horrible if I totally switched gears on you? Because I'm dying to ask why exercise is such a huge part of your life.
That's a great
I don't want to mess up this.
No, it's a great flow. So exercise is a big part of my life because it's multiple things. I think exercise is kind of the big equalizer when it comes to, it sounds bad from a Jewish perspective, but I think there's a lot of Judaism you can parlay into that it really depends on how hard you work, and there's a real genuine effort you have to invest, and you can't just kind of, I don't want to say BS, but you can't just make that up. It completely changes your whole day because you have a sense of accomplishment just for the sake of accomplishing it, which I have a very hard time finding anywhere else in my life. And did I go to
you actually executed it?
You actually execute it, and you see results. You feel the results. You can know if you did a good job. You can know if you, first of all, just showing up Are you sore? Are you pushing yourself? And there's the whole idea that you can build yourself into whatever you want to become, which I learned, again, I'm very into like it sounds bad to say, again, why am I justifying it? Because I'm a religious Jew, but one of the things Arnold Schwarzenegger always talks about is how being a bodybuilder is like being a real sculptor, because a sculptor can just like add stuff, but to bodybuild, if you want to make